Hi everyone, listen to this story. Something absolutely wild happened to me, and I just have to share it. I never thought a first date could make me question my entire sense of reality, but tonight did. I matched with her on Tinder a few weeks ago, and after some casual chatting, I decided to take a chance and book a fancy restaurant. You know, the kind, dim lighting, crisp white tablecloths, menus that make you feel like you should know what truffle oil is. I wanted it to be special, a real chance to connect. She showed up 20 minutes late. No text. No sorry I'm running behind. Just breezed in like she owned the place. I forced a smile, tried to shake it off. Maybe traffic, maybe she got caught up. I told myself not to read too much into it. The moment we sat down, though, I could feel the awkwardness creeping in. I asked about her day, tried to comment on the decor, joked about the lighting, anything. Her answers were so short, so flat, it felt like pulling teeth. I laughed nervously, trying to keep the mood light, but inside, my stomach was twisting. Something was off. And then, she did the unthinkable. From her bag, she pulled out a Nintendo Switch. Just casually, right onto the table. And before I could even react, she started playing Mario Kart, gesturing toward me with the second controller like it was the most normal thing in the world. I froze. My fork hovered over the bread basket, my brain scrambling to understand if I had somehow stepped into a hidden camera show. "Wanna play?" she asked, grinning like she just offered me a cup of coffee. I blinked. No, thanks," I mumbled, my voice probably sounding way more tense than I intended. I mean, I love video games, but not like this. Not on a first date at a place where people are quietly sipping wine and pretending to read menus without judgment. She shrugged and went back to racing down Rainbow Road, totally absorbed. Meanwhile, I sat there, swirling my water, trying to think of something, anything, to keep the conversation alive. But every time I tried, she gave me one-word answers or distracted herself with the game. I caught a few curious glances from other diners, their eyebrows raised at the Switch casually dominating our table. When the waiter came to take our order, I hoped maybe she'd snap out of it. But no, she didn't even glance at the menu. "I'll have a burger and fries," she said flatly. No smile, no curiosity about the specials. No hint that she cared about the fancy ambience at all. I wanted to say something, joke, tease, even just nudge her about the ridiculousness. But a part of me knew it wouldn't land. This wasn't playful. This was her being her. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to find it cute, impressive, or completely insane. By the time our food arrived, I realized I was barely paying attention to it. I was just counting the minutes until this bizarre dinner ended, trying to figure out how the night had spiraled so fast from hopeful to surreal. Then came the table manners. I honestly didn't know people could eat with such little awareness of, well, basic etiquette. She slouched in her chair, elbows on the table, chewing with her mouth open, crumbs scattered like tiny landmines across the white tablecloth. Every so often, she'd glance at me like she expected me to comment, but I just sat there, trying not to grimace, pretending my phone needed urgent attention. I tried to salvage some normalcy. "So, do you like cooking?" I asked, hoping for a tiny spark of conversation. She shrugged without looking up from her burger. "Sometimes," she said, and then went back to the Switch. I remember thinking, am I being punked? This is a high-end restaurant, not a living room. But there she was, fully comfortable, like nothing was strange at all. And the worst part? I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just exhausted, mentally drained by the sheer audacity of the situation. Halfway through the meal, she paused her game for maybe 10 seconds, glanced at me and said, "So, do you want to go on a second date sometime?" I froze. My fork hovered midair. I felt my jaw tighten as I blinked at her, trying to process whether she was serious. My brain kept circling back. She just brought a Nintendo Switch to a fancy restaurant, ordered a burger, and barely spoke to me. And she wants a second date? I forced a laugh, though it came out more like a strangled snort. I don't think that's going to work," I said carefully, trying to be polite but firm. I could feel her eyebrows lift in surprise, like she genuinely didn't understand why I was saying no. She shrugged again, like nothing had happened, and went back to her game. I paid the bill, silently cursing myself for choosing this place, and tried not to stare as she swiped through Rainbow Road like the world was exactly as it should be. On the walk home, I replayed every moment in my head. The lateness, the lack of conversation, the switch, the burger, the manners. And I realized something. I wasn't upset about any one thing. I was stunned by the sheer mismatch between what I expected and what actually happened. It was like the universe had handed me a first-date nightmare in Technicolor. And yet, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not in a longing way, more like disbelief. Like, did this actually happen? Or had I imagined the whole thing? The next day, I kept replaying the evening in my mind, half expecting to wake up and realize it was all a weird dream. But no, every detail was there, stubbornly real. The way she zoomed past me on Rainbow Road, the casual shrug when I politely declined, the burger in a place where people ordered filet mignon. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Honestly, it was kind of impressive in its own chaotic way. Most first dates are awkward, sure, but this was a full-blown event. A story I'd retell at parties, not something I'd cry over or regret. And that's when it hit me. Some mismatches aren't about right or wrong, they're about reality clashing with expectations. I wanted someone who shared the same sense of occasion, who'd at least pretend the ambience mattered. She clearly didn't, and that's okay. Just not with me. So I moved on. I didn't dwell, I didn't overthink. I kept swiping, kept dating, and eventually met people who matched my energy, my humor, my idea of a first date. But every now and then, I'd think about that night. And every time I'd grin, because sometimes life serves up a story so weird, so unmistakably memorable, that all you can do is shake your head and say, wow, did that really just happen? Appreciate you listening. Subscribe and comment. It really helps the channel grow.